Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're focusing on something really fundamental. It touches billions of lives globally: access to safe drinking water. Now, it's recognized as a basic human right, but, consistent, reliable access. That remains a huge challenge for far, far too many people. So our specific mission for this deep dive is to sort of unpack the complex realities of getting safe drinking water in sub-Saharan Africa. We're going to zero in on some really fascinating insights from a detailed research paper. It explored this exact topic in southwest Nigeria.
Exactly. And the core of our discussion today, it's this comprehensive study. It's based on a survey of 700 households in Ogun State, Nigeria. Our goal really is to distill the most important findings from this pretty robust research, giving you, the listener, a clear, nuanced understanding of the issues at play. It's quite intricate.
Okay, so let's unpack this. When we talk about global development, the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, they often come up, right? Specifically, SDG 6 aims for universal access to safe water and sanitation by 2030. It builds on earlier goals. But what does safe water really mean here? Are we talking about, specific types of sources?
That's a great question. And it's key to understanding the data, really. In this study, improved water sources, they refer to protected options, things like piped water right into your house, public taps, protected boreholes, protected wells, basically sources that are, likely to be free from contamination, not like, say, open rivers or unprotected wells. And despite these big goals, the stark reality is that sub-Saharan Africa, it's still facing huge challenges. The region accounts for a massive proportion of the global population without access to these improved water sources. I mean, to put a fine point on it, back in 2015, only about 40% of the population in sub-Saharan Africa had access to one, just 40%.
Wow.
Yeah, that number really underscores why a deep dive into places like Nigeria is so incredibly crucial.
And that brings us right to the research location, Ogun State in southwest Nigeria. Now, this isn't just any region. It's a major commercial and industrial hub. So the insights from this study are particularly relevant, I think, because it reflects challenges in a really bustling, growing area.
Indeed. Yeah, the study we're drawing from used a detailed cross-sectional survey. They reached out to 700 households, well-structured households, across a pretty diverse geographical spread, 8 randomly selected local government areas, including some big hubs like Ota and Ijebu-Oda. So this wide reach, this robust sample size, it really provides a solid foundation for the data and, the insights we're about to explore.
Okay, so we've seen how the global targets kind of stack up against the regional reality, and how the study's scope in Ogun State sets the stage. Now let's turn to the people inside these households. What do the demographics tell us? And how might those factors influence their daily struggle for water?
Well, what's fascinating here is how clearly the demographics paint a picture of the socioeconomic landscape. It's quite vivid. So from the 700 households they surveyed, the study found 68% of the respondents were female.
Okay.
When it came to education, a significant chunk, 37%, had no formal education at all, while only about 19% had tertiary education. And maybe most critically, income. A striking 44% reported earning less than $25,000 per month. That's quite low.
Yeah.
And only 8%, just 8%, earned above 100,000 players. These are very, very telling figures about the economic realities on the ground.
So given those circumstances, especially the income levels, how did the study connect that to the perception people have of water affordability and access? Yeah. Because perception, especially around cost, that can be a really powerful factor.
It absolutely can, yeah. The study showed that this perception of water cost, it varied widely. You had categories like cheap, moderate, expensive, and even free sometimes. And the research found a strong correlation that really drives this point home. For every 1% increase in household income, the odds of accessing improved water sources went up by about 7%.
7%.
Yeah, 1.070 times or 7%. So this isn't just about what things actually cost. It's more about how economic vulnerability kind of traps people, It limits their choices, pushes them towards less safe, less reliable water options, often simply because they feel they have no other viable alternative.
Right. Beyond that perceived cost, what about the immediate, tangible challenges, the things people face every single day getting water? Let's get into the practical hurdles, the actual expense, the physical distance they have to travel, and just how reliable those water sources are.
Well, cost is definitely a major barrier. The study found only 27.5% of respondents said they'd even be willing to pay for a public water supply if one were available and reliable. That's quite low.
Less than a third.
Exactly. Then there's the huge burden of distance. It's a critical factor. While the mean, the average distance, was reported as maybe half to zero point 0.7 kilometers, people often travel much, much further. Also, 64% of respondents said their water point was reasonably far, and 36% reported feeling stressed by the distance. Think about that daily stress.
That's a huge daily burden, right?
It is. And while the average distance was around half a kilometer, think about what that means. For millions, this isn't just a casual walk. It's often multiple trips a day, sometimes carrying heavy containers, 20 liters or more. It fundamentally impacts time for everything else: education, work, childcare.
Yeah, absolutely.
To give you some specifics from the study, 21% travel between, say, 250 and 500 meters, and another 29% travel between 500 meters and a full kilometer.
Okay, and the sources themselves, you mentioned they're diverse.
Incredibly diverse and often, not safe. For drinking water, 52% of households relied on rivers or streams.
Wow, over half.
Yeah. And 38% used unprotected wells. For washing, the figures were a bit lower, 19% for river streams and 15% for unprotected wells. Other sources included things like rainwater harvesting, piped public taps, private taps, commercial taps. And it's worth noting, 40% of households relied on private boreholes.
Okay, private boreholes are significant then. What about the quality? Did people trust the water?
Well, it's mixed. 79% considered private borehole water safe and wholesome, which is, pretty good. But, and this is important, some respondents specifically mentioned encountering color dark customers, basically discolored or turbid water in the public boreholes.
Oh, okay.
That indicates serious quality concerns with those specific public sources.
That paints a really powerful picture of daily life. So if we step back from the household level, what does all this tell us about the broader sort of systemic issues, water management, governance in the region?
Yeah, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the study really points to some pretty widespread systemic issues, things like poor management, a glaring lack of maintenance, corruption even. These were frequently cited as major weaknesses in government water provision.
Right.
So government-owned taps, which ideally should be a reliable source, they often suffer from inconsistent supply or, simply don't work at all. And this lack of reliability, it just pushes people towards other options, which are often less safe.
And the private sector, do they fill the gap?
They often step in, to fill these supply gaps, but their services, while maybe more consistent sometimes, can be significantly more expensive, and that effectively limits access, especially for lower-income households. It creates another barrier.
It really sounds like a challenging cycle. But were there any promising solutions that came out of the research, any pathways forward that could help address these issues?
There was. The research did highlight a very promising solution: rainwater harvesting.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, a significant number, 38.85% of households, said they'd be willing to invest in rainwater harvesting if it were promoted more. And this isn't just like a minor tweak. It points towards a more community-driven, decentralized approach, something that could potentially sidestep the often failing centralized infrastructure.
That makes sense, especially in a region with rainy seasons.
Exactly. Harnessing this natural resource could potentially transform daily water access for many. It offers a degree of autonomy and reliability that the current systems often just can't provide. So this research really underscores that getting to universal access to safe water, it needs a multifaceted approach. It's not just about building new pipes or wells, it's equally about addressing these deep-seated socioeconomic disparities, understanding and respecting community perceptions, and crucially, ensuring robust governance and, consistent maintenance of the systems we already have. It's a holistic problem, needs holistic solutions.
Yeah. This deep dive has truly illuminated the really intricate web of factors affecting water access in southwest Nigeria. Everything from the profound impact of income and that daily burden of distance to the diverse, often unsafe sources people rely on, and that critical overarching role of governance. It's definitely a complex challenge, no doubt about it, but one with clear, identifiable areas where we could intervene.
Indeed. And while the challenges are significant, the study clearly points to practical, community-level solutions like promoting rainwater harvesting. That seems key. And this, combined with that critical need for improved governance, better maintenance, and more collaboration between public and private sectors, it really does show a path forward.
So as you, our listener, reflect on this deep dive into water access in this specific region of sub-Saharan Africa, maybe consider how this might prompt you to think differently. Think about global resource distribution, about equity. What role do you believe innovative, community-led initiatives, or maybe even technological advancements, could play in bridging these critical gaps, especially when facing these larger systemic challenges? Something to ponder.